What really happened to Donny Hathaway? He was a musical genius, a soul legend with a voice that could break your heart and heal it at the same time. At the height of his fame, Donny had it all: millions in the bank, platinum records, a devoted fan base, and collaborations with legends like Roberta Flack. But behind the curtain of success was a man haunted by invisible forces, voices, paranoia, and a battle with demons no one could see. And then, he was gone. On a cold January night in 1979, Donny Hathaway was found dead beneath the window of his 15th floor hotel room in New York City. The official report called it suicide. But many, friends, fans, even investigators, have never fully believed that. What if it wasn't suicide? What if something or someone pushed him? In this video, we take you inside the crumbling shell of Donny's abandoned home, trace his net worth and lifestyle at the time of his death, and dive deep into the chilling mysteries and unanswered questions that still linger decades later. Was it mental illness? Or something far more sinister? Stay with us. This is the story they didn't want you to hear. Donny Hathaway was born on October 1st, 1945, in Chicago, Illinois. Not long after his birth, his parents separated, and his mother moved with him to St. Louis to be closer to her family. Growing up in St. Louis, Donny experienced deep poverty, but his life was shaped early by music, especially gospel. He was raised in the church under the guidance of his grandmother, Martha Pitts Cromwell, a respected gospel singer. She not only nurtured his faith, but also became his first music teacher, introducing him to the piano. By the time he was just 3 years old, Donny was performing gospel under the name Donny Pitts, becoming one of the youngest gospel singers in the country. His family, especially his grandmother, was strict and protective. While other kids played outside, Donny was inside rehearsing daily. He idolized musicians like Liberace and Ray Charles, and watching them perform pushed him to perfect his craft. By age 14, Donny was already standing out in high school, not only for his straight A grades and musical talent, but also for his success as a wrestling champion. His piano skills impressed his teachers so much that he was invited to take music theory classes at Washington University while still a teenager. After graduating, he earned a fine arts scholarship to Howard University in Washington, D.C. Originally, he had dreams of becoming a teacher or preacher, but ultimately chose to dedicate himself to music. At Howard, he was so gifted that his professors admitted there was little left to teach him. He was even helping instruct other students. It was also at Howard that he met his future wife, Eula, a choir singer with whom he often practiced and performed. While still attending Howard University, Donny Hathaway began making a name for himself beyond the classroom. He often performed in local bars around Washington, D.C., singing and playing piano as part of a light jazz trio led by his classmate, Rick Powell. Their smooth, soulful sound quickly caught on, and they regularly packed venues with fans who couldn't get enough. During this period, Donny's personal life was also evolving. His girlfriend, Eula, became pregnant with their first child, a daughter named Lala, who would later become a celebrated singer in her own right. Shortly after, Donny and Eula got married. With a young family to support, Donny made the bold decision to leave college before graduating and pursue work full-time. The choice upset many around him, but those who knew Donny understood he wasn't making it lightly. Despite missing classes, Donny had always maintained top grades. He was simply that gifted. Formal education had become more of a barrier than a path forward. That's when fate stepped in. One night, soul legend Curtis Mayfield attended one of Donny's performances and was blown away by his talent. He offered Donny a position with his label, Curtis Records. Relocating to Chicago, Donny threw himself into the industry. He wore many hats: songwriter, producer, arranger, and collaborated with some of the biggest names in soul music. He worked with Curtis Mayfield and The Impressions, the Staple Singers, Jerry Butler, and even contributed to legendary labels like Chess Records and Stax Records. Among those crossing paths with Donny at the time were future superstars Maurice White of Earth, Wind and Fire, and Minnie Riperton. Everyone who encountered Donny marveled at his natural gift. He could hear a melody once and play it back perfectly without missing a note. One artist Donny Hathaway connected with on a deep, almost spiritual level was Roberta Flack. Their bond was immediate and powerful. They shared a love for gospel roots, classical music, and notably, both were classically trained pianists who had studied at Howard University. Roberta, in fact, had been something of a prodigy, enrolling at Howard at just 15 years old, one of the youngest students in the school's history. When Donny and Roberta began working together, their chemistry was undeniable. Songs seemed to flow effortlessly between them, as if their voices and styles had always been meant to intertwine. On Roberta's debut album, they recorded Our Ages, Our Hearts, and Trying Times, both standout tracks. That album soared to #1 on both the Billboard album chart and the Billboard R&B album chart. Inspired by the momentum, Donny began focusing on his own career. He released a duet single with June Conquest called I Thank You Baby, but soon decided to part ways with Curtom Records. Though Curtis Mayfield had given him his start, Donny was ready to branch out and find his own voice as a solo artist. Around this time, saxophonist King Curtis approached Donny, hoping he'd join his band. But Donny had a different vision. He respectfully declined, determined to carve out his own path. That pivotal moment came when King Curtis introduced Donny Hathaway to legendary producer Jerry Wexler. That introduction led to a major record deal with Atlantic Records through its subsidiary, Atco. The executives at Atlantic were stunned. They had just signed an artist whose raw talent some believed rivaled even Ray Charles and Aretha Franklin. At that point, those three names, Ray, Aretha, and now Donny, were the label's biggest priorities. On July 1st, 1970, Donny released his debut album, Everything is Everything, featuring the standout track, The Ghetto. The song quickly became an anthem within the black community, a soulful, honest tribute to the neighborhoods that shaped him. The Ghetto wasn't just music, it was a statement. It gave people a sense of pride, of identity, and of resilience. Just a few months later, Donny dropped what would become one of his most enduring classics, This Christmas. Decades later, it remains a holiday staple, often ranked among the greatest Christmas songs ever recorded. While groups like Boyz II Men, The Temptations, and the Jackson 5 have contributed timeless holiday hits, Donny's This Christmas stands in a league of its own. Even later renditions by The Whispers and Chris Brown paid homage to the magic of that original version. After the success of Everything is Everything, Donny Hathaway released his self-titled second album on April 2, 1971. One of its standout tracks was his haunting rendition of A Song for You, originally written by Leon Russell. But it was Donny's version that truly resonated, his voice trembling with raw emotion, the piano aching with vulnerability. It became one of his most beloved performances. With his reputation soaring, Donny found himself in high demand. He composed the soundtrack for the film Come Back, Charleston Blue, and wrote the theme song for the TV show Maude. Professionally, he was thriving. But privately, things were beginning to unravel. Friends and family started noticing troubling changes in his behavior. He would sit for long stretches staring at static on a television screen, fixated on the white noise. He began reading extensively about suicide, and the constant pressure of traveling took a toll. Spiritually, he wrestled with a deep internal conflict, torn between making secular music and returning to gospel, which he felt was more righteous. He turned to the Bible for comfort, but the questions never left him. Eventually, his wife encouraged him to seek medical help. Doctors diagnosed Donny with paranoid schizophrenia, a mental illness that distorts a person's perception of reality. He struggled with delusions, severe anxiety, and the belief that others were out to harm him. For Donny, this meant suspicion toward friends, fears of being spied on, and auditory hallucinations. Though treatment options existed, managing the illness proved incredibly difficult. Donny Hathaway's battle with mental illness was intense and unrelenting. At one point, it was said that he had to take up to 14 pills, 2 to 3 times a day, just to stabilize his condition. The medication helped, but only when he stayed on it. Like many struggling with such a diagnosis, he often stopped taking his meds once he began to feel better, unintentionally triggering another downward spiral. Still, amid these private struggles, Donny continued to make extraordinary music. On May 6, 1972, he and Roberta Flack released their legendary duet album, Roberta Flack and Donny Hathaway, featuring iconic tracks like You've Got a Friend, You've Lost That Lovin' Feelin', and the Grammy-winning hit, Where Is the Love? That song soared to #1 on both the Billboard Easy Listening and R&B charts, becoming an anthem of its era. While many artists would later cover it, the original duet remained unmatched, though some fans hold a special place for the Jesse and Trina version from the Dead President's soundtrack. Later that year, Donny also released a live album that reached #4 on the Billboard R&B charts and was certified gold. His popularity was rising fast. The Black community embraced him deeply, his voice, his presence, his truth. But behind the scenes, his condition worsened. Donny began showing signs of paranoia and delusion. He once approached a stranger in a restaurant and insisted she go home to take care of her children, completely unprompted. His wife later recalled that he once told her their daughter, Lala, could see right through him. He also began experiencing extreme mood swings, which made it hard for those close to him to stay connected. Sadly, this emotional volatility led to a rift between him and Roberta Flack. Despite the turmoil, Donny never stopped making music. It remained his refuge, the one place where the storm in his mind seemed to settle, if only for a while. On June 18, 1973, Donny Hathaway released what would become his final solo album, Extensions of a Man. One of the standout tracks was the powerful and emotional ballad, Someday We'll All Be Free. Written by lyricist Edward Howard, the song was a deeply personal message of hope, crafted specifically to uplift Donny during one of the darkest periods of his life. Howard later explained that he wrote it as a tribute to Donny's inner struggles, hoping it would help him feel seen and supported. While the album was cherished by fans and has since become a classic, it didn't perform as well commercially as Donny's earlier releases. Behind the scenes, his battle with mental illness was growing more severe. He was frequently in and out of psychiatric hospitals, but even from a hospital bed, Donny found solace in songwriting and playing the piano. Eventually, Donny seemed to vanish. He stopped taking his medication, cut off contact with friends, and walked away from his wife and children. His daughter, Lala Hathaway, who was just 6 at the time, later admitted that she barely remembered him from those years. During his absence, Donny began a new relationship and fathered another child. But his illness disrupted that part of his life as well. It was during this low period that he met Elliott Smith, a new manager who described Donny as profoundly depressed. He remembered Donny going days without changing his clothes, withdrawn from the world. Still, there was a spark left in him. In time, Donny reconnected with Roberta Flack, and the two began making music again. On December 13, 1977, Roberta released her 6th album, Blue Lights in the Basement, which included the duet, The Closer I Get to You, with Donny. The song was a massive hit, reaching #1, 2 on the Billboard Hot 100 and topping the Hot Soul Singles chart. The album was certified gold, and the single earned a Grammy nomination, reigniting public interest in Donny Hathaway's incredible talent. With that success, Donny and Roberta agreed to collaborate on another duet album, Many around him hoped that returning to music, the one thing he had always loved, might offer a path to healing. But there were others who worried. They believed Donny needed rest and recovery, not recording sessions. His condition was still fragile, and the pressure of returning to the spotlight could prove too much. Sadly, they would soon be proven right. On January 13, 1979, tragedy struck when Donny Hathaway was found dead outside his 15th-floor room at New York City's Essex House Hotel. That day had already been filled with signs that something wasn't right. It was a cold, rainy winter afternoon, and Donny was at a recording studio working on music. In the middle of the session, he suddenly let out a chilling scream and bolted from the room. When others found him, he was curled up in a corner, visibly shaken and sobbing. He told them he believed white men had connected his brain to a machine and were trying to steal his music, his sound. It was clear that his paranoid delusions were intensifying. Despite this disturbing episode, Donny appeared to regain some composure later in the evening. That night, he joined his lawyer and manager for dinner at Roberta Flack's apartment. The mood there was warm and joyful. They had just been nominated for a Grammy, and Donny seemed upbeat. He played the piano, laughed, and enjoyed the evening while Roberta cooked and filled the room with the comforting aroma of home. It felt, for a brief moment, like a return to the man everyone knew and loved. After dinner, Roberta gave Donny and his manager a ride back to the Essex house. They arrived at the hotel around 9:30 p.m. After returning to the hotel that evening, Donny told his manager he needed to talk to him about something important. But when they got upstairs, Donny never brought it up. His manager waited, expecting a call later that night. The call did come, but it wasn't from Donny. Instead, hotel security phoned to say something had happened. Moments later, the devastating news hit. Donny Hathaway had fallen to his death from the window of his 15th-floor hotel room. When they found him, he was fully dressed, coat, scarf, and cap still on. The door to his room was double-locked from the inside. There was no suicide note, no sign of struggle. His belongings were untouched. Suitcases packed neatly, music sheets, and a tape recorder placed just as he'd left them. The only thing out of place was the open window. The safety glass had been carefully removed and laid on the bed. The police ruled it a suicide. But those who knew Donny remained divided. Some close friends believe it may have been an accident, that he leaned out too far while doing something he often did, singing or preaching out the window to the sky and the birds. His manager even recalled having to pull him back in once. Others, however, felt it was no accident. Donny had spoken openly about suicide before, read books on the subject, and had once even attempted it by overdose. Whether it was a tragic misstep or the final act of a tormented soul, Donny Hathaway's death left a hole in music that has never quite been filled. Those close to Donny said he had recently expressed a desire to reconnect with his wife and children. For Roberta Flack, his longtime friend and musical partner, the tragedy hit especially hard. She had just dropped him off at the hotel around 9:30 p.m., and by 11 p.m., he was gone. She later said she couldn't understand how things could spiral so quickly. Donny had seemed happy, even hopeful, during dinner that night. He was excited about their Grammy nomination, and he was deeply spiritual. He didn't believe in taking his own life. Still, the medical examiner ruled the death a suicide. He explained that while children might accidentally fall from windows, adults typically don't. Donny had died from multiple internal injuries and fractures consistent with a fall from that height. Despite the large crowds expected, Donny Hathaway's family chose not to move his funeral to a larger church. They wanted to keep the service intimate, a farewell grounded in love rather than spectacle. On the day of the service, family, friends, and some of the most celebrated names in music came to say goodbye. Among them were Stevie Wonder and Roberta Flack, who had shared a Grammy with Donny in 1973. Reverend Jesse Jackson, leader of Operation Push, delivered a heartfelt eulogy. He called Hathaway an authentic genius of our day and voiced his belief that Donny's fall from the hotel window may have been accidental, not intentional. With a small and strong and careful man, it is not likely that he would go through all that preparation just to jump, Jackson said. How he died should not consume our memory of him. How he lived and what he gave us was his music. After his death, the duet album he was working on with Roberta Flack was never completed as intended. Instead, it became her 9th studio album, titled Roberta Flack featuring Donny Hathaway. Released in 1980, it included 2 finished tracks, You Are My Heaven and Back Together Again, both of which became posthumous hits. Later, the Whispers paid tribute with a touching ballad, A Song for Donny, set to the melody of his classic This Christmas. The slowed-down groove captured both the sorrow of his passing and the brilliance of his legacy. The pain of his loss remains. But Donny Hathaway's music continues to resonate with generations of listeners. His daughter, Layla Hathaway, has carried his legacy forward, earning 5 Grammy Awards and a place of her own in the music world. His other daughter, Kenya, is also active in the industry. Many fans still hope that one day a proper biopic will tell Donny's full story. The genius, the struggle, the tragedy, and the timeless gift he left behind. He was only 33, and he is still deeply missed. At the time of his death in 1979, Donny Hathaway's net worth was estimated at $5 million, a testament to the powerful legacy he built in just a decade of mainstream success. His income stemmed primarily from music royalties, live performances, record sales, and production work, all of which flourished during the peak of soul and R&B's golden era in the 1970s. Much of Hathaway's earnings came from his recording contracts with Atco and Atlantic Records, where he released multiple studio albums and singles that climbed both R&B and pop charts. His debut album, Everything Is Everything, 1970, and subsequent releases such as Donny Hathaway, 1971, and Extensions of a Man, 1973, brought in substantial revenue through physical album sales, especially in an era when gold or platinum certifications were closely tied to artist payouts. His live album, Donny Hathaway Live, 1972, achieved gold status, further boosting his income through both record sales and tour performances. Donny also generated consistent income from publishing royalties thanks to timeless hits like This Christmas, which re-enters seasonal charts annually, and Someday We'll All Be Free, which has been covered by numerous artists. Collaborations with Roberta Flack, including Where Is the Love and The Closer I Get to You, earned him Grammy accolades and continued residuals from licensing and radio play. Collectively, Hathaway's songwriting and publishing rights contributed hundreds of thousands of dollars annually, even after his passing. In addition to his solo career, Hathaway worked as a session musician, arranger, and producer, collaborating behind the scenes with acts like Aretha Franklin, Curtis Mayfield, and the Staple Singers. This studio work provided both creative fulfillment and steady compensation. He was also briefly involved in composing for television, including contributing to the theme song for the show Maude, which added to his revenue stream. After his tragic death at just 33 years old, Donny's estate, including royalties and publishing rights, was passed on to his wife, Eulalia Van, and their 2 daughters, Lala and Kenya Hathaway. Today, Lala Hathaway carries on her father's legacy as a 5-time Grammy-winning vocalist. Meanwhile, Hathaway's music continues to generate revenue, with classics like This Christmas returning to the charts every holiday season. In the last years of his life, Donny Hathaway resided in a modest yet inviting home in the Hyde Park neighborhood of Chicago during the peak of his career. This residence, reflective of his grounded nature, was a sanctuary where he composed and rehearsed many of his timeless pieces. The house featured a cozy living space adorned with warm hues and personal memorabilia, creating an environment that fostered creativity and comfort. Today, Hathaway's former home stands as a silent testament to his legacy. While it no longer serves as a residence, the structure remains intact, bearing the architectural charm of its era. The exterior, though weathered by time, still exudes the warmth that once filled its walls. Local residents and fans occasionally visit, paying homage to the place where Hathaway's musical genius flourished. In recent years, efforts have been made to preserve the memory of Hathaway's contributions to music and culture. A mural in Hyde Park, for instance, celebrates his life and work, serving as a beacon for mental health awareness and artistic inspiration. This public art installation not only honors Hathaway's achievements, but also revitalizes interest in the spaces he once inhabited. While the house itself may not be open to the public, its presence continues to inspire and remind us of the profound impact Donny Hathaway had on the world of music. Donny Hathaway's story is one of immense talent, deep emotion, and heartbreaking tragedy. From the intimate spaces where he crafted his legendary songs to the legacy he left behind, every corner of his life continues to inspire generations. What do you think about Donny Hathaway's contributions to music and his mental health struggles? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this glimpse into his life meaningful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories about legendary artists like Donny Hathaway. Thanks for joining us. I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.